Mikel Arteta is the new Arsenal head coach, announced today. Hashtag welcome Arteta. Welcome to the Bearded Gooner Show. I am he, the Bearded Gooner. I am joined tonight by Stan the Man. Say hi, Stan.
Good evening from Vancouver.
And Ray from Arsenal Fan Circle. Thanks for joining me, fellas. Really appreciate it.
As we say in Ireland, on shot. I'm present in the house.
Well said, sir. Well said. Gentlemen, let's dive right in. Mikel Arteta, he's here. It's official. He's announced. Ray, let's start with you. Just thoughts right off the bat.
Okay, so I think 95% of the fans would say Arteta was not their first choice. It was not my first choice, but I am very, very encouraged. I'm bloody encouraged, if I can curse a little bit, and get excited about this new acquisition, because that's what he is. He's the most important transfer this season for the club. Very, very excited by the language used. I'm sure we'll get into all of that, Tanner, later, but very, very encouraged by what he's saying. I hope he breathes it every minute of every day with those players on the training pitch, and they understand now the culture change that we were talking about on my channel last night is possibly going to come to fruition.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. Bloody excited. Culture change. Yeah, we're going to dive into the nitty gritty of everything. But go ahead, Stan. Right off the hop here. Thoughts? Happy? Excited? Yeah. Ready to go?
I'm extremely happy. It's quite funny because when I woke up this morning over here and the news started to come in, I started thinking, and it dawned on me that in my time supporting this football club now, this is going to be my 12th manager, including a couple of caretakers from Stuart Houston and one by Pat Rice. And like you say, I mean, when if you go back a few weeks when people were having a discussion about, well, who would be your pick? He wouldn't have been my first choice. But I've got to say that now that he has been appointed, I'm really excited by it. Why not him? It's a ballsy move. Mm-hmm. And the more that I think about it, it's almost like, when the Bruce Rioch situation happened, which was like the only other time I remember sort of like a lot of unrest at Arsenal with managers and playing staff and so what have you. At the time, it was Venables and Johan Cruyff were the kind of the people that were being mooted about to take over. And I can remember being really excited about Johan Cruyff. And then they totally blindsided us with an unknown quantity from Japan. And, it turned out wonderfully. And I'm really hoping that maybe this is going to be, lightning can maybe strike twice. And this can be another master stroke. And we've got a right gem here who we've managed to get our hands on first. And there's going to be mistakes because it's his first rodeo, right? And all that we can hope is that he's the sort of guy that when he makes mistakes, he learns from them quickly and doesn't sort of continue to make the same mistakes as the last manager seemed to make. But yeah, I'm really excited. I heard everything that I wanted to hear from a manager in the two press conferences that I saw, his two interviews. He said everything that I could have hoped for. And I can't wait to the Bournemouth game to see the first lineup and to see, to see if you've got that new manager bounce that people keep talking about.
Stan, there was one thing that I heard that I was a little bit quizzical about. He was asked if they were talking about transfers, and Arteta said, no, we had not discussed the transfer situation in January yet. That's the one thing that sort of piqued my interest a little bit. Everything else was brilliant.
Maybe he's just keeping his cards close to his chest.
Maybe.
That's exactly what I'm thinking with that.
They have to have discussed it.
You have to think that there's been a discussion.
Wenger say the same thing for years, right? So he's probably taking a leaf out of that book.
Yeah. Play everything, keep everything close to the chest, and you don't. I don't think you necessarily want to. You go down that rabbit hole. These guys are, to a degree, they're quite frankly, they're trained in how to answer questions like that. I think that's a question that if he were brutally honest about it, and if that, and actually said, yes, there have been discussions, and you're kind of going down that rabbit hole of, oh, well, okay, who's on the agenda? Who are you looking at? What are your priorities in the transfer window? How much money is there to be spent? And you've just opened up, Pandora's box of questions coming from the media. So, they're trying to keep this, concise in his opening press conference. So I think there have to have been discussions, because I would think he came in and said, to Josh Kroenke, to Raul, to Edu, guys, listen, if I'm going to come in and I'm going to take this job, I need to know that I'm going to have your support in, at the very least, bringing in positionally the players that he wants to bring in, the style of player, maybe not specifically in name, but again, hopefully the recruitment team, gathers a list of players that fit what Arteta is looking for in a certain position, and you guys see where I'm going with that.
And it's got to be a mentality as well. They're looking for a mentality in the player, the will to win. We're stepping up several levels now with the intention that Arteta is bringing into the club now.
I mean, I imagine.
Did both of you get a feeling that the players are now well aware of the situation?
Well, just I want to go back about what you said about the transfers. I imagine that when Arteta probably, gave the board an idea of where he thinks we need to be strengthening, I would imagine that they turned around and opened a briefcase and showed them a list of people that they're actually thinking about for January. Because when the window shut in September, I got the feeling that they were still trying to get other things done. There were other players that they had their eyes on, and you've got to think that, with the way that we've played since that last window, that would only reinforce them to continue, pursuing some of those players. And you've got to think that they would have sat down with Mikel Arteta, compared notes, and be looking at that.
Exactly. Well, and let's think about it too. I mean, just in the here and the now, we need another left back. We need another right back. Our two left backs are both down with injury for a significant period of time. It looks like now with Kolasinac with his ankle. Obviously Tierney had shoulder surgery. So we need some reinforcements here. We can't rely on Callum Chambers and Ainsley Maitland-Niles to, fill in the gaps here for the next, at least a month. We don't know when Hector Bellerin is going to come back from the hamstring. I haven't heard anything other than he's back in training, but who knows? So even just the here and now, Arteta comes into, a bit of an injury-riddled squad right now that desperately needs reinforcements and strengthening, just from a depth standpoint, not even so much talent as it is. We've got to get guys in here who can play, who are healthy.
Yeah.
The best ability is availability. And right now we have two left backs who don't have that. So go ahead, Ray.
Plus, also, Tanner, we're going to be heading into the FA Cup and different types of cup competitions into February as well. The Europa League starts back up.
Yeah,
so he's got a little bit of time, but the league games are going to come thick and fast over this festive period coming up.
Precisely. So what, Stan, what were your takeaways from his opening press conference? Why don't you go ahead and hit on a couple of points there, things that really jumped out at you, what he said, what main points from the press conference really got you excited?
The main thing that jumped out to me, and it seemed to be the main point with him, was a change of culture at the club. And the way that he worded it was that for him, he feels that a culture change at the club from top to bottom, so that everybody's on the same page, trying to strive towards the same goal, is of the utmost importance. He said that has to be sort of, I'm paraphrasing, but he was saying like, you know, this has to be the foundation of which everything else is built upon. And he used a funny phrase. He said, otherwise, what did he say? Otherwise, the tree becomes shaky.
Yes.
Yeah.
The phrase that he used that I quite liked. I thought there's a T-shirt in there somewhere. I'm still thinking about that, but I'm really glad that that seems to be something that he's touching on. And you could think that, as I keep saying, we haven't got a manager that's coming from a leagues across the sea. He's been there for the last few years, looking at Arsenal. You know, we play them a couple of times a year, maybe more in the cups. So he's seen Arsenal up and close. He sees all of the media that's written about Arsenal. He knows inside out what's going on. And the way that he mentioned the culture, not only I think was that something that he was telling us, that was a sort of a message to the players, that if there are players at the club at the moment that are kind of not doing everything that is possible to, you know, to fulfill the objectives, you know, not working to the maximum, being a little bit lax or being a little bit sulky, he's trying to tell them that that's all going to change. And I really enjoyed hearing that.
Yeah. Ray, go ahead, jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the transcript in front of me, and it's obviously 11 minutes long, so we do have to paraphrase. But I did like a certain snippet of a minute that was going around on Twitter, basically about needing to come in and motivate the players, listen to them, understand how they tick, and talk to them first. So he's given them the opportunity now to talk to him, open up, so he can actually help them. Every player in the world needs to improve. Did you think Ronaldo and Messi have stopped improving, stopped working on their game? So every player can get better, and Arteta is going to give them the opportunity to do that. But also saying, if they don't improve, well, the door is going to be there for them as well.
Right.
So, paraphrasing, but
yeah,
really struck a lot of chords with a lot of fans. You know, we have been thinking that these players have been in a summer camp for the last 2 or 3 years. back end of the Arsene Wenger reign. You know, Arsene Wenger, to his credit, he allowed the players a lot of freedom, but we started to recruit players who are coming to their peak years and getting more and more money. They've done a lot of things in their career, and perhaps the motivation is not there for a lot of those players to push on and be in the top 4, be in a conversation for a title run. You know, we're all every year we're getting on every year, and we want to see more. As fans, we want to see more competition at the top end of the league. We want to see more league wins. And yes, we're projecting way into the future here. But I was very, very encouraged about that press conference.
Yeah, the one point I wanted to make here, and K-Man 1867 actually kind of stole my thunder here, so I'm going to show his comment up here. I don't want them hiding. I want people to take responsibility for their jobs, and I want people who deliver passion and energy in the football club. And that really, that was really one that kind of stood out to me, was he doesn't want players hiding. In other words, you know, be accountable. Obviously, take responsibility, and I think that's I think he used this press conference today to really set a tone within the dressing room to say, guys, look, you've been, like you just said, Ray, summer camp. You've been kind of slacking off here and doing your own thing a little too long, and now it's time to shape up and fly right. You know, I'm coming in here to do a job, and I'm not going to have you guys, the players, costing me my job. That's obviously our Arteta speak. You know, that's you know, when you think about it, you know, the coach can only do so much. He's not the guy actually out there kicking the ball around, you know. Yeah. And so his job is to motivate, is to teach, is to coach, and to summarize all of that is to set the players up for success. What the players do with it from there, sometimes that's not an accurate reflection of the head coach. And quite frankly, I think Freddie's game, his first home game against Brighton, in my opinion, would be a prime example of that. I thought he actually set them up pretty well, and the players just came out, laid an egg, and that's not a reflection of Freddie Youngberg. So go ahead, Ray. What were you going to say?
Also, playing in the right kind of triangles and being able to be in the right position. I've watched a few videos now of Arteta coaching in the dressing room and telling players how to receive balls, where they're not going to be immediately tackled, and how to split defenses between the fullbacks and the centre backs to play through the line. So I'm very, very encouraged about his passion and what he's going to bring, his knowledge. Obviously, Stan, a lot of knowledge between Arsene Wenger and Pep Guardiola.
I think as well, what I'm prepared for is, obviously it sounds like that we have a group of players that for whatever reason no longer want to be at the club, if we're to believe the reports, and they happen to be senior players. And then we've got another bunch of players who a few of the fans, think that their time is done at the club and they're not good enough. And they're also senior players as well. So Mikel Arteta is going to need 2, maybe 3 windows to turn that team over. It all can't be done this January. He's only just coming in. So he's going to have to continue to work with maybe a certain number of players who at this moment in time don't necessarily want to be at the club. Who knows, maybe as they have time to work with him, that could change and players can improve, and I certainly hope so. But I'm prepared to go through that pain because it all can't be done this January, and it might not all be able to be done in the summer. But hopefully this time next year, when we're getting into that third window, the Arsenal team that we look at will look like Mikel Arteta's team and not just, an overflow of what Emery had. So I really hope that a lot of our fans understand that if you think that a lot of our players are shit now, well, sometimes, you can polish a turd as hard as you want. Do you know what I mean? It's still a turd, right?
Still a turd.
Exactly. Yeah. We may have to put up with some players a little bit longer than we want, but I'm sure that over time, Mikel Arteta, he doesn't sound like a mug to me, that he's going to gradually get rid of those players. They're gradually going to bring in the players that he wants, and happy days when that happens. I'm really looking forward to this process.
I'm sure, guys, that the players, you better believe their phones have been buzzing off the hook, talking amongst themselves about this new acquisition of a coach. And bloody hell, we're going to be working, or we're going to be some of them will be really, really encouraged. I'm thinking about Bernd Leno, who's performed exceptionally well this season. He's going to have hope for the future. We all know the players. We can all surmount as to what if they're good to go forward or not. Mikel Arteta will make that decision. But players like Lucas Torreira, finally, I think he may be used. I was thinking about Lucas Torreira because he's playing in the position that Arteta has played for most of his career, especially the latter part of his career. He's going to be able to help him immensely. He's an international player. When he goes away on international duty with Uruguay, he excels in that position. And understandable what Unai Emery was trying to do with him, given our limited resources in midfield. But Lucas Torreira is going to be very, very, very heartened by this new coach coming in.
Well, Lucas Torreira was one of the players that we heard reports about wanting to maybe get away, and there's talk about Napoli. But I think that he could be one of the players that is probably thinking to himself, well, hold on a minute, maybe this could be good for me, with someone like Mikel Arteta coming in. I think maybe a player like Xhaka, on the other hand, from what I've been reading, it sounds like he's already made a decision that he wants to leave. And
he's booked his flight back to Germany, probably.
And I'm fine with it. And if he needs me to sort him out an Uber to get to the airport in my car, that's on me. I'll do that for him.
There's going to be players who are thinking that way.
I'm hearing, was it something like 40 million euros for Granit Xhaka from, is it Hertha Berlin?
Hertha, I saw 45 million.
45. Wow. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Let's take that.
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Do I owe you change? You know,
Yeah.
you need a tenner back after that. Another player, and let's face it, guys, we're not going to get away from this until he's gone. But another player that seems, at least social media speaking wise,
you're going to say it, aren't you?
I'm going to say it, Mesut Ozil. Arteta knows him. He played with him, and he knows what he flat out said. He knows what makes him tick. That's another point that he made in the press conference. He knows what makes Ozil tick, and this is okay. I want to I'll say qualify what I'm about to say with this. Mesut Ozil, I think, is the last of a somewhat dying breed of players who play in that 10 role.
Yeah.
The game is evolving away, in my opinion, from those types, from the Mesut Ozil types of number 10s. I don't put everything at the feet of Mesut Ozil. I put the effort is what really, really sticks out with me with him. Walking off the pitch on Sunday against City. Come on, man. That's a problem. But in terms of his style of play, you know who he is from a player standpoint. You know what you're going to get. You know what to expect. So can Arteta come in and maybe help Ozil adapt to today's game and say, okay, here's what you're good at, and here is where it's going to fit in today's game. Here's what I need you to do with playing your game. We're just going to tweak some things here and there to fit the quote-unquote modern game, if that makes sense. So there's another player that I think I'm excited to see what he can bring out of Mesut Ozil.
And look, Tanner, not every player is going to flourish.
No.
Not every player is going to step up to the plate. But Mikel Arteta has left the door open for all of the players to audition for their part again. He wants to understand the players, understand what they need in their game, understand how they can flourish, and hopefully he's going to adapt the team and the style of play to suit the majority of the players. Right, Stan?
Here's the thing, and I'm not going to do my usual thing of slaughtering Mesut Ozil because I've done it to death.
Clean slate.
But what I'm going to say is this. I think the point that you both made there about the clean slate, I think it's a moot point, and I'll tell you why. I think even though in the press conference Arteta was saying that, he knows what makes him tick, he's played with him, and he's got all of the intentions in the world of trying to get the best out of him. What I'm thinking, and I don't know it for a fact, but I've got my Sherlock Holmes hat on here. I think that with what's happened in the China situation, I think the club's already made a decision that he's got to go, which is why we're hearing the talk about the Fenerbahce thing. Because if you look at it on a business standpoint, there's a lot of shirts that you can sell in China. A lot of people out there want to buy that merchandising. And I've got a feeling that the way that the club didn't sort of like come out and sort of stand next to Mesut Ozil's comments on that situation, they kind of distanced themselves. So I think that Arteta probably might not even get the opportunity to work with him because the club want to distance himself from him that bad that he'll go on loan and will probably pay a very, very high percentage of that fee. And everybody's happy, right? Everybody's happy. We can still do our tours in China in the pre-season. Because if they're taking him out of the game, they've taken him out of FIFA and PES now in China. I mean, you've got to have a lot of clout to be able to do that. China got clout, right? So if that's happening and we want to do a future tour to China, we can't if he's a part of the squad. So maybe this decision's already been made and he's on his way.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Stan. From a moral point of view, I have a problem with the club doing that. But obviously, Mesut Ozil is not the bastion of morality either. But let's not get into that.
No. I don't really understand about it, to be honest with you. But, I just think that that decision's made because, the club doesn't want to alienate themselves in such a big market, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does he accept a loan move?
Oh, I think he would. Yeah, I think he loves Turkey, doesn't he? It's his homeland. He loves. I wouldn't see why not.
Yeah, but all I heard last summer was how much he loves London. He wants to stick around and fight for his place. We all heard that.
But he's a married man now, and if the missus is giving it to him remember what happened with the car incident, right?
Mm-hmm.
His missus was experienced that. We don't know, for how many months she's not been really, happy in London, right?
To be indoors a lot.
A very big part, right? Because you want to be happy with your partner, and it's a fresh marriage as well. When that happened, it's not a good endorsement for someone to say, "Let's live in London," and they have to pay. They've got paid security, right? Walking around the premises and all of this stuff going on. Yeah. It could play a factor.
Yeah.
Great point, Stan.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's good stuff. Other players that you think maybe flying a bit under the radar, I guess, while we're on the topic of.
There's about 10 or a dozen.
Am
I going too far?
We're not going to get into all. We're not going to get into them all, but maybe some bigger names who are maybe flying. I'll say flying a bit under the radar in terms of their place within the team. And I'll throw out probably the biggest name that might be a little under the radar right now, but Aubameyang. Where do you think Arteta stands with Aubameyang and the captaincy? And
go first, Stan.
Yeah, go ahead, Stan.
Again, I'd probably say another moot point that could be a decision that will be taken out of his hands. Because if he's still an Arsenal player by the summer, does that mean that he can then wind down on a free or something, or his value will have gone down quite substantially? Which then means that if the club are going to learn by their past mistakes, how many times have we had taken our face with people walking out on a free? We're trying to put an image across that we're a little bit more organised. So that means that if Aubameyang doesn't want to sign a contract, and it sounds like he's definitely agitating for a move, and we're hearing about all of these deals, aren't we, from Real Madrid, this amount with this player, then it's this amount with two players. Again, Arteta might not be able to make that decision because it would be within the best interest of the club. And then you've got to look at it from Aubameyang's side of the fence. He's been with us a little while now. He's not really won anything with us. And he's 31 years old. And, he probably wants to add another Ferrari or Lamborghini to the collection.
And let's face it, moving to Spain and, potentially finishing out at least the prime of your career with Real Madrid's probably not a horrible move.
Not at all.
Weather's more agreeable down there.
Yeah.
So
he is though, Tanner, the mainstay, and Stan, the mainstay in this team. The guy is going to get the goals. So to Stan's point, I think we'll definitely keep Aubameyang till the summertime, and both parties can take a look around, see what's going on with Arteta and the club and Aubameyang. If it's agreeable for both parties, then continue or move. Separate in their own direction, go their own ways.
I want to, buddy of mine watching the show, and I don't know why he didn't leave a comment. He may not have an actual YouTube account. I think you have to have a YouTube account to leave a comment. But he sent me a text, and he said, "Jared Bowen to Arsenal, get it done." Jared Bowen of Hull City. He said, "Jared Bowen to Arsenal, get it done." This from my buddy who's actually a massive Hull City fan.
What position does Bowen play?
He's a striker.
We need a left back and a right back.
Yeah. But my point being with that is Aubameyang, and I'm just kind of spitballing here. It's not. Don't misunderstand me. He's a world-class striker, obviously, but. Am I getting a bit overzealous or expecting a little too much from Arteta to say, could we let Aubameyang go and watch his goals go out the door and hopefully Arteta could devise a system where I'll just say a Jared Bowen here again as an example, come in, not a world-class striker, very good striker, but also playing in the championship at the moment, where he could bag 25, 30 goals a season for us.
Absolutely. Traditionally, if you lose a striker, someone else will come in to take that load, but will they score as many goals? We're going to probably lose some output, but definitely it's possible to do that.
For me, I think there's been too much of an over-reliance on our strikers. I just don't think that. I mean, I don't see a lot of goals coming in other parts of the pitch very often anymore. Don't see a lot of midfielders, coming in with
not in this team.
No,
with their fair share, or some. I was going to say some defender goals, but Callum Chambers had a few at the beginning. But you know what I mean. There seems to be a very much of a over-reliance on Aubameyang and one of the other two that are playing up there with him. So I'd like to see, and maybe that's something that Mikel Arteta will be able to address as well. But I mean, if we were to part company with Aubameyang, do you think that it would be that we would need to ideally bring somebody in immediately in that window to replace him, or do we say, okay, we've still got Lacazette, even though he's looking a little bit moody at the moment himself, and we've got Martinelli. Are we going to say that we're going to start frying Martinelli week in and week out, or do we still need to get as much we can for Aubameyang and then reinvest that into another striker? Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's a double-edged sword. Do you cash in when a player's value is the highest? Because if you cash in when a player's value is the highest, then obviously you're losing production in that player's area of the pitch. So do you cash in on Aubameyang now in January? This came in 1867 just said, be good business to sell him in January. Contract expires in the summer. Obviously, is it this summer that his contract expires? I thought he had one more year after.
I thought he had another year.
I think he has another year after this. But the point is, obviously, the closer he gets to that contract expiring, the lower his value dips.
I think we're getting to that 18-month period.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Summer.
That's what I thought.
And typically, transfer fees are not as high in January. You can get a little bit of a deal if the clubs are willing to do that. But very, very difficult to do business in January as well.
You're kind of looking at, do you want to cash in now or keep him for the goals? But Aubameyang doesn't strike me as the kind of player, for example, when Aaron Ramsey knew that he was going to be going off to Juve and he wasn't being picked by by Unai Emery because he wasn't sure if he was in the game. When he did pick him, he always gave 100% for me. I'm not sure whether if we did say, okay, we know that you want to go now, but we're not going to let you go until the summer. I'm not sure whether we would get the same value from Aubameyang, whether he would still be in the game in, game out, or whether it'd be, Mr. Stroppy bollocks and not putting in 100%. Because we did hear those reports, didn't we? When he was agitating for his move away from Borussia Dortmund, we were hearing stories that, he was a bad influence in the dressing room, that he was up a little bit late. He was doing all the kind of little things that you do when you've got the ump, and we've never seen any of that until now. We're starting to see little glimpses of it, I think, and especially as well with, his brother, Big Willie, putting all that, putting the tweet out there. It does help. So, if we get the money for him now and he wants to go, we shouldn't hold him over a barrel, and then he doesn't play good for us, and we lose out on a lot of that value, cash-wise.
Yeah, that is the whole PR team, Aubameyang and his brother, and I think other parts of his family.
I think his dad's in there. I think his dad's a big part of that as well.
Well, let's not make any mistake. The players that we've mentioned already, Aubameyang, Torreira, Lacazette, Martinelli, and Leno, are the players that have probably excited Arteta to come and take the job. And it's the hope he's clinging on to with a nucleus of decent players. If we can get the other 3, 4, 5 players going in the right direction, playing to a decent level, of consistency, he's got a project to work on at that point.
Yeah. Last question on players here. I think, at least for the time being, what one player do you guys think will benefit the most from Arteta being the new head coach? Stan, I'll let you take that one first, unless Ray, Stan, you look like you're thinking. So
he's thinking.
yeah,
I'll start off.
Go ahead.
I've already mentioned Torreira, who's been at a crossroads. Some fans do not value him as highly as people have talked about, but I do believe there's a lot of potential in that player. He's a full international.
Mm-hmm.
He's South American. I think there's some more things to unlock in his game. And as I've already mentioned, I think Mikel Arteta playing in that position can help him the most. Aside of that, also that coaching video I talked about, I think the wingers are really, really going to be unlocked by Arteta as well. We've seen with Raheem Sterling what he said, and I think Sané as well.
Yeah.
That Mikel Arteta has had a big part to play in their careers, and I think Pepe and even a Martinelli can learn a lot from Mikel Arteta.
Yeah, go ahead, Stan.
I think Joe Willock could get some benefit out of this as well, because, talking about playing positions, I remember Mikel Arteta when he used to be a central attacking midfielder, and I think when he played for Celtic when he was up in Scotland, he kind of played in a more of a kind of like a De Bruyne kind of a role, right? A lot more assists, a lot of goals, a lot of shots from outside the box as well. So someone like Joe Willock, who, if you remember when we had the pre-season friendly, I think we played against Madrid, didn't we? And I think Zidane
was there.
Zidane said in one of his interviews afterwards that the player that stood out on the pitch for him was Joe Willock.
Yeah, that was the DC match, right? Yeah,
that's quite an endorsement.
Yeah,
that's quite an endorsement, and you hear that there's a lot of talent with this with Joe Willock's. Again, with Ray, I think if Mikel Arteta is a lot to do with the rise of players like Sterling and Leroy Sané, then I look at some of our wide players like Martinelli, Reece Nelson, Saka. I mean, that's got to be if he knows what to do with wingers, we could be in for something good with these players, because they all show a lot of talent, don't they? Nicolas Pepe as well.
Pepe's a player. Pepe's a player that's excelled in counter-attacking with Lille last season. So
yeah,
I think Arteta is going to transition the ball quicker through midfield and want to move the ball into the forwards, turning on teams that are not ready defensively. We've been too slow playing through midfield for the last 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think that may change as well.
Well, I mean, let's face it, the whole point of the game is to score, and we seem to just want to play, in our own third of the pitch. It just seems to be where we're most comfortable. And let's face it, for the last probably, well, at least for this season anyway. I really, really, really miss Aaron Ramsey. But one of the biggest pieces of this puzzle that's been missing, in my opinion, is that link from the defense to the offense in midfield. And Aaron Ramsey could have been, to a degree, that player. And obviously we know what happened there, so no point crying over spilled milk here. But go ahead, Ray. You had a thought. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking about this as well today. I've showed you guys the Pep video where he looks forlorn now. He's lost Arteta, and he knows how big a loss that's going to be for Manchester City. And to his credit, he let Arteta come to Arsenal. He looked him in his eyes, and Arteta, he knew Arteta wanted to come. But one thing I wanted to say is Manchester City have been accused of the dark arts a lot, and we've been accused of being too nice and not steely enough in midfield.
Yeah.
We've seen Manchester City take a few yellow cards against us last Sunday. I think Arteta is going to bring that to the team as well. A little bit of steel, and know the situation where you can take a yellow, a professional foul. Everyone is doing it in the game. We're not.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think that goes with a bit of culture. You don't want to you don't want to promote a a culture of attacking other players, physically trying to maim them. But I think you want a culture of, look, you're not going to come into our house and shove us around and take all of these yellow cards and put these challenges in without us coming back at you or being the aggressors, right from the kickoff. Okay, man, every English player will benefit. They couldn't understand Emery. To back to my question that I had asked, the one player that you think would benefit, and both good shouts from you guys, Joe Willock. In fact, Stan, you kind of stole my thunder on that one. I was thinking of either Joe Willock or the guy that I will say is Emil Smith-Rowe. I think this.
Let me
go ahead,
let
Rick.
me ask you, Tanner.
Yeah.
Let's look at the defenders. What defender would you think can benefit most? Fullback or central defender can benefit the most from Arteta?
So if we're talking strictly the back line, because again, and I 110% agree, Ray, with the Torreira shout as well. But as I look across the back line, I would say I'll give you two. And I'm going to say it's either Callum Chambers or Rob Holding. And here's why. David Luiz, Mustafi, Socrates, these guys, they are who they are. It's the quote unquote old dog new trick kind of problem with those guys. I want Arteta to come in and be able to mold the younger players, and I think he will do that. So with Chambers, I think there's a player there. Is he a full-time starter? Is he in Arteta's first 11? Maybe not. Same goes for Rob Holding. But I think both of those players have been grossly miscoached at this team, especially in the past 18 months. And that's we've beaten that horse to death multiple times on Unai Emery actually coaching players to regress. So defender-wise, Callum Chambers, Rob Holding, I'm going to give you two. I think
good picks.
I think with Hector Bellerin, I'll just kind of go across my preferred back line. Stan, feel free to jump in here.
No, go on. I want to hear back line.
Yeah, Hector Bellerin. I think we know what we have in Hector Bellerin, and I could see Arteta getting a bit more out of him as well. I'll be honest, I really think the world of Kieran Tierney.
There's a question as we go along. Let's go along then, right? So we started with the right back. Well, I think we all agree that with the personnel that we have at the moment, Hector's first choice.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that we've got anyone in the squad that's when everyone's fit, that we've got a decent backup in either Callum Chambers or Maitland-Niles, or could we be looking at someone to give Hector more competition? And do any of you actually think that Hector Bellerin might not even be good enough? What's your thoughts on that? That position.
Yeah, all of those things. I would agree with that. Maybe Bellerin's not good enough for what Mikel Arteta wants to do in terms of passing out from the back. Eventually, we're talking 18 months down the line again, maybe. But he's going to want to play out from the back, and all of our defenders are not acquitted at doing that outside of the goalkeeper. Bern Leno, who's pretty good at that. So yeah, to your point, maybe we don't have the right back yet, but we definitely do need cover to come in for Hector Bellerin at right back.
But as it stands at the moment, do you reckon he's the best that we've got for that position if you had to pick one?
Yeah. At the moment, we're just plugging, what do you call it, round holes in square pegs and all that stuff.
Can I ask you when it comes to Hector, because his main weapon was always his pace, right? And for me, when he's come back from that injury, do any of you think that he's looked as bionic as he used to, or does he look like he's kind of?
This is a very difficult injury to come back from, and I've actually had it happen to me twice in the same knee. It's absolutely it's a brutal injury to come back from 100%. It's not unheard of, and by and large, players in every sport do it. Tom Brady, had his knee blown out first game of the season a few years back, and obviously he's come back and he's still one of the best to ever do it, if not the best. But it won't happen right away for Hector. It's just the injury just doesn't lend itself to that. By this time next year, I think is when you'll start to see Hector really comfortable on it. Just running is it's a task. Not a task necessarily physically. It's more up here. Is the knee going to hold up? Is the knee, you feel a little pop or a little buckle, and your first instinct is, oh man, I just did it again.
So we're going to keep Hector. So are we going to buy? Are we going to get a backup for Hector? Or do we want to get a replacement?
I get a backup, and if he's better than Bellerin, then he's a replacement.
Stan, I want your opinion on what you're asking, because I feel like
I'm just trying to go for each position. Because me personally, I think I'd like to progress a little bit longer with Hector Bellerin, and maybe get a backup. But I wouldn't be objected to upgrading. I'm always down for an upgrade, right? If you look at each player as a piece of machinery, a cog.
Yeah.
If you can upgrade and take the sentiment out of it, yeah. But I just wanted to know where, and I wanted to do that with the back line actually. So we're gonna keep Bellerin then, and get a backup for him. Who's next?
Yeah, I keep Bellerin. I think I may have said this with you guys on Arsenal Fan Circle the other day. I'd really like to see Maitland-Niles just commit to the position, because I think he would be good cover for Hector. But I want to stick with Hector for right now. So
and it remains to be seen how Arteta is going to approach it. Is he going to just switch out the weakest link, the weakest cog in the team, and replace it in transfer window, or is he going to work with the whole squad and try to upgrade all of the cogs, if we're using that term, to a level B instead of a level C? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A grade 2 instead of a grade 3.
Well, let's Stan. I'll Stan. Go ahead and take the reins on this. Then lead the discussion. Just go ahead and start naming players, and I think we'll just jump in and tell you what we think.
Same thing for the left back then. So we've got Tierney now, and we've got Kolasinac. I originally thought that we were buying Tierney to be, our main number 3, and Kolasinac was going to be the backup. But I think Kolasinac, it's really weird that we've been playing quite badly, but I think Kolasinac over the last few games has actually stood out to me. He's been playing a little bit differently. I don't know where that influence has come from. So again, same thing. Are we happy with Tierney? Are we happy with Kolasinac? We leave that as it is, or do you want to have a better backup?
Better backup.
Yeah.
So we talked about this over on my channel the other night. We talked about this on my channel the other night. Kolasinac could not get off the field last Sunday quickly enough.
Yeah, he didn't want any part of that.
Yeah.
That's not a player you want to move forward with in your team, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a better backup than Kolasinac. I mean, the guy can't cross the freaking road, let alone cross the ball into the box. But Kieran Tierney, I tell you, there's something about this kid.
There is, isn't there?
There is something about this kid. He has a Tony Adams, Patrick Vieira captain quality about, and that's I know that if he actually heard that is a lot of pressure to put on that kid. But I think he has it. This is going to sound dumb, but I like the fact that this dude tucks in his shirt, doesn't wear long sleeves. He is old school, man. Every time you see him walk out onto the field, he's in short sleeves.
I can tell you one thing about him, right? There is no way that there is a snood in his kit bag.
I got to tell you. Oh, that okay. All right. You're gonna have to clue me in on that one. I don't know what a snood is.
That's what he does not own one of them. I don't think he owns a pair of gloves.
No. Yeah.
Stan and I have been having this conversation over a number of podcasts.
The snoot. Yeah.
He's a hardy guy. I mean, if he's from Scotland, right? He's probably that guy could play in Hailstones in probably a pair of like Speedo trunks, and he'd be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't. He doesn't rock the snoot, Stan.
No, he's
also as well. Something that I really like about him is I don't know if you've ever heard him be interviewed when he joined the club. They've done a similar thing, his interview and showing him around. And he talks a good game. He's got a really good, solid head on him. When he talks, do you know what I mean? There's something. He sounds a lot older than what he is, and it's a pity that he's only been at the club for a short while and not had a lot of games under his belt. Because I see a future captain in that guy.
Yeah. I just really worry about his injuries, Stan. So hopefully he can steer clear of that. Everybody gets a reset button and we go to the end of the season. Hopefully we have a reasonable season and we restart and everybody's fit, including Tierney, for next season.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to keep Tierney.
Who's next?
So we're keeping Tierney and we want to get a backup for him. I think we've all agreed on that. So what about the centre-back positions? Is there anyone in our centre-backs? Where would you go with that? Centre-halves.
Well, Callum Chambers to me and Rob Holding are the two better defenders for me. David Luiz and Socrates. Where do we go with these two?
I continue paying them just to make them go away.
We can't with David Luiz, right? Because he's only just come in. So, we're kind of stuck with him for a little bit, aren't we?
He signed a 2-year contract, I think. David Luiz, man, I never liked the signing to begin with. When I saw it on deadline day, I'm like, what are you doing with this? I mean, this dude is, I know everybody makes the comparisons to Sideshow Bob because of the hair and everything, but seriously.
Sideshow Bob's a better player.
Yeah. I mean, this dude is he, honest to God, he's a sideshow. He is a circus. It's just, you just never know with him. Is he going to have a reasonably decent game, which I don't think I've seen him play one in an Arsenal kit yet, or is he going to make some boneheaded mistake where he kicks the ball right into somebody's, right into an oncoming player, ball's in the back of the net, or he grabs a hold of somebody's jersey because he's standing there watching the plane fly over his head, and here comes Mo Salah, skating in on him, right into our box. You never know what's going to get with him.
I heard something on another podcast that he's always had a very, very good defender beside him, like John Terry, Gary Cahill, who's covered up for his deficiencies so that he could be that ball-playing defender. And we got a nuts and bolts defender beside him mopping up a little bit for him. So until we have that kind of defender to go alongside of him, it's going to be more a Sideshow Bob.
See, I'm a little bit like Ray. I'd like to see the Callum Chambers, Rob Holding pairing, but it's not because I think it might save us. Do you think that we want to see those two together? Because we've not really seen it, have we? That's the thing. That's the one pairing that we've not seen in any kind of time. Do you know what I'm getting at? So it's the unknown, isn't it? We think that the unknown might be the
least Keystone Cops for me.
Yeah.
As well,
Yeah, that's.
I always felt under Emery that no matter how bad Socrates or Luis should play in a pairing, one of them would always be picked because it was for him. He seemed to be wrapped up in experience, age, seniority rather than form,
or what they cost in a transfer fee. Not that Luis cost much, but what we pay for Socrates? 20 million, somewhere right in that neighborhood, high teens, low 20s.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So that's another thing. Yeah, is it experience? It's seniority? Is it? Oh, he's got a big. He came with a big price tag. The central defense just needs a complete overhaul. I like Rob Holding. was absolutely gutted to see him go down with that injury last year because he was our best defender.
He was doing so well, wasn't he?
Yep. And man, oh man, and I was there. I was actually at that game.
Let's talk about Mustafi. Maybe is salvageable by Arteta.
Is Mustafi a kind of player who is a less is more kind of thing for him? As long as he plays in small spurts, because when he was only playing the Europa League matches, wasn't half bad. And he scores goals. He can score goals.
Maybe
he keeps them away as well, doesn't he?
Keeping his game simple, maybe in the less is more category.
Maybe we don't need to overcomplicate things. That's the one thing that I don't want to see Arteta do is come in and overcomplicate, because again, it is a relatively simple game to play. And you just stick to the basics, keep it simple.
Any other defenders, Stan?
I've just always kind of felt that we've seemed to have had a problem with central defenders for a long time, going to the Wenger days, and I think a lot of that might be because of the way that we've set up our midfield and the kind of players that we've chosen to use in the midfield in front of them. Because do you remember that guy Squillaci? When Squillaci came to us, he was no mug. He'd won things. He'd done really well, had a good reputation behind him. For some reason, when he came to us and when he played for us, he looked terrible. But if you read, I remember reading some stories or articles that he was being interviewed in after his time with Arsenal, reflecting back on his career. He said something to the words of, playing in a defence at Arsenal was probably the most terrifying defence that he's ever played in, because you're left so open by the midfield that you've constantly, like with the other teams coming at you, you're constantly got attackers screaming towards you. And if you look at the way that we play, if you look at some of the defensive mistakes that our defenders seem to make, and some of our supposedly deep line midfielders make, it's because the players are screaming through the midfield. They've got the wrong guy in there. Xhaka's a great example. It's so easy to get past Xhaka. You don't have to have a skill move to get past Xhaka, because he's got such a slow turning circle. You can just get by him, and then the option is to grab hold of you and bring you to ground. And it's similar with Mustafi as well. Mustafi seems incapable of making a standing tackle. When he comes into tackle, he comes in sliding. It's like when you play FIFA and you hit the blue button, he's on that blue button. Yeah. You watch him after a game, right? He's always got like a huge stain of grass up one side of his arse and his shorts, because he's a slider. And for some reason, three coaches have not been able to coach that out of him. It's almost like no one has pulled him to the side and said, listen, you do some really good things in the game, because he does. Sometimes for out of 90 minutes, he'll have like 87, 88 minutes where he's done really good, but he'll have that one brain fart. There was that one in the Europa League where he just always seemed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was running back to the defend and the ball bounced and it hit him off his knee and it almost went in. It just come off the bar. And I was so thinking, not again, because I felt for him, and it's like wrong place, wrong time. So maybe someone like Mikel Arteta and the people that he's going to bring in, maybe they'll be able to coach something like that out of Mustafi. But he's not a young kid anymore, so I don't know.
Yeah, K-Man makes a good point there.
Exactly. There it is.
I grew up watching Arsenal, and they had that famous back five and great midfield to cover them. And I was watching Tottenham. They were a mess at the time. Tottenham back then were doing what we're doing now, having no cover at all for their defenders. So we need to get back to a situation where we can provide cover to our defenders as well.
Maybe if we do that, some of these defenders that are looking bad, they may look better. And if you can couple that with the way that they play around at the back sometimes when it's unnecessary, because especially Socrates, he can only pass the ball really in one direction and he's stuck because you always know which way it's going to go, right? If we can fiddle around with that and not make it obligatory that you've got to kick the, you've got to play it around the box. You can't. Sometimes you've got to hoof it up the field, because if you're constantly playing it out the back, gradually your opposition are moving closer and closer to the line. Yeah. Once they move closer to your line, what do you do then? Kick it into the channel, because now you've got loads of space. You can actually draw them onto you and open up space. And if we can learn that and couple that with a screening midfield, some of our defenders might look a little bit better. And one last thing on defenders. One last thing on defenders. What I was saying about sometimes if we don't see anybody, like we haven't seen the pairing of Callum Chambers and Holding, we think that's going to be our saviour. I remember over the last month or so seeing a lot of people on social media crying out for Mavropanos. Where's Mavropanos? Where's Mavropanos? And I've been keeping up with the under 23s and been reading that he'd been properly stinking up the place. And we brought him into the first team, and we kind of saw the reason why we haven't seen much of Mavropanos. He looks a long way off to me. A long way off.
I would honestly, I'd probably just sell him at this point. The more that I think about it, or at least I'd send, or at the very least send him out for a year on loan. Let it, see what he.
I was just laughing there, Stan, while you were talking about Socrates and trying to imagine Mikel Arteta with Socrates on the training field, trying to play out from the back. I'm sorry. He must be pulling his Lego hair out. We all know. Flash back to the Watford game. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Stan. Go ahead.
Go on.
Definitely encouraged them.
Yeah. We're gonna wrap this up here, guys, if you don't mind. I look at the broadcast time here, and we're at about an hour, and I feel like we could just go and go and go. So at least I know I could. I love the sound of.
Well, we got a couple more topics just to cover real quickly.
Yeah.
The cheap red for the Arsenal.
Yeah, that's exactly you're doing the same. You're doing the exact same thing I am right now. You're looking at my tweet. I keep hearing this. It's the cheap route for the Arsenal. Is if it works out, is that a bad thing?
No, exactly. That's the point I was going to make. It may well be the cheap red, but it could be an inspired red. And tomorrow we're going up against Everton, and I'm really feeling we've got the better acquisition than Mikel Arteta over Carlo Ancelotti. A very accomplished coach.
Real quick, did they never announced him? Did they? Did I miss an announcement with Everton?
Well, it's going to be Big Duncan against Freddie on the touchline.
Yeah, but I haven't heard that Everton actually hired Ansel. I heard the rumor, but I haven't heard anything official. I don't know if
I believe it's going to be weird because Arteta and Ancelotti will be in the stands, watching over their respective teams as well. It's definitely the first game.
That's got to be a first of its kind.
Be sure to watch it, everybody.
Yeah.
And Stan, you got to get in, but definitely it is the cheaper option. Yes, monetarily, but I think in years to come, knock on wood here. Get myself.
At the end of the day, it's not a cheap option for Mikel Arteta. It's £5 million a year. That's not a small figure. It's not. It's a big
investment is coming in as well.
And there's been a couple of £1 million that we have to pay in compensation on top of that as well.
Yeah.
Bottom line, what do you guys think we can expect?
Is this the predictions part?
Well, I'm not one for predictions, but what's your expectation of Arteta coming in here? What is the biggest thing that he needs to do with this club? He's got a 3.5-year contract. As the time approaches to either extend him, let's say he keeps his job for at least the 3.5 years. What do you need to see out of Mikel Arteta to give him a contract extension?
Stan?
Well, again, the first thing he's got to address is the culture. And we've got to give this guy, because we may have a situation, we've got players that want to leave. And I said this earlier, we've got to give him a few windows, haven't we? We've got to let Mikel Arteta get Mikel Arteta's players. and start to judge him. I just really hope that along that way, as we have to, have a little bit of pain and there are bad results, I really hope that people on social media don't sort of have a bit of a knee-jerk reaction and start banging the Arteta out tambourine too quickly. Let's give the guy some time. If we don't, we could qualify. We could win the Europa Cup. Who knows? I mean, that's still on the table. And even if we don't win the Europa, and we don't make the Champions League, maybe us going into next season without any European congestion could be probably one of the best things that can happen to a new manager who's finding his way, who's got a handful of young players as well, and it might just be the perfect thing. So let's just remember that. We've got a couple of windows, I feel, to let Mikel Arteta put his stamp on this team, and I'm willing to give him that, whether there's bad results or not. I just hope we don't get our pants pulled down too often.
Yeah, Stan, you hit a lot of great points that I was going to hit on, so I'm just going to bang home them a little bit more. Already we've got Arteta out hashtags. It's ridiculous, and it's probably a lot of that could be from other banter clubs wanting to troll us. They know we have a good coach now. He's just got to put it together. Good coaches, good managers win something in at least their first full season. So after 18 months, I want to see some kind of silverware.
Yeah.
Be it an FA Cup, be it a Europa League. We're not going to win league titles. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But good coaches do that. And I really, I think everybody's excited by that press conference.
Yeah.
He needs to go in there every day. He mentioned that. Bring the enthusiasm. Show these players, like we talked about, it can't be a summer camp anymore. I always feel every season you should have the opportunity to win the league. Every team should aspire to win something. It's not necessarily you're going to win it, but you should set out to win it. I feel our players just feel like they're not good enough or don't want to put the groundwork in to do it. And I think culture change, to Stan's point again, I think that's the watchword for me for this week. Culture change.
Change the culture.
I think Arteta can do it. There are obviously a couple of players there that he has played with before, which makes it a little bit more difficult for him to do that. But he's got to set the tone, and I trust him. And to Stan's point, finally, give him time. We got to give him time.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing there as well? With the social media part, I honestly believe that a high percentage of the people on social media that are already sort of wanting to do the hashtag Arteta out and he's going to be no good. I honestly believe that these are individuals that, for them, social media is not really about engaging with people. It's more about retweets and likes. And what they want to do is they want to put that tweet out today, Arteta out, he's no good. They want to take a photo, screenshot of it, and then they want to be able to come back should Arteta fail in 2 years' time and say, look what I said 2 years ago.
Yeah. It's all about
I'm more interested in that aspect rather than saying he may not have been my pick, but you know what? I'm going to get behind him, because I'm telling you what, if we were back in the days of Oracle and CFAX, when that was the only way that you got your information, you would not be hearing people saying this kind of stuff. It's social media. It's about likes and retweets, engaging. And that's what I think.
I agree.
That's the easy thing to do, to say it's not going to work, because only one team can win the league every year out of 20.
Right.
Only 3 or 4 teams can win a pot or a trophy. It's not easy to win things. So let's move forward. I'm very, very encouraged. I know you two are as well.
If your only interest is to be able to try and come back at us in 2 years' time with hashtag I told you so, then I'm not interested. I'm glad that we're trying this. At least we're trying, right? It's a ballsy move, and it could really pay off.
I've been saying, I think I said it, Ray, on your show earlier in the week. I hope he thrives on this. I hope somehow or other, was he my first choice? No, but was I ever 100% against him? No, and Ray, I said on your show, it's the inexperience is the con. That's the con. You look at the pros, you look at the con. That's the con. That's it. That's the list. Yeah. There is no other con. That's it. And
don't forget, he's ambitious. He's got to be ambitious to take this job.
Absolutely.
Manchester City.
He could have stayed at City. He could have very well taken over for Pep going into next season. Pep may leave after this season's over. He could have stayed at arguably the richest club in the world and pretty much gotten whatever he wanted. And he chose to come here. He knows exactly what this situation is, and he wanted to come here. So for all of you naysayers actually watch this show, all of you, and I saw one on here who was on Twitter who was, it's like something here, something here, something here, Arteta stinks, whatever. If you're watching this, I honest to God, I outside of wanting the club to win, I just want you to be wrong. I just want those people to be wrong. And I want him to doubly succeed if that is even possible, but you know what I mean. Go ahead, Ray.
Let's remember, we have doubted the Arsenal knock this season, but Mikel Arteta heard it. The Arsenal knock, and it meant something to him. Generationally, we've got players like Saliba, who grew up an Arsenal supporter. Mm-hmm. I think Stan might have made this point before. We're losing generationally Arsenal supporters. We need to rekindle that flame and generationally bring the youngsters along because they want to be part of something that wins. The kids do.
Yeah. We've got to remember, there's so many of our supporters out there. I mean, you think Arsene Wenger was in charge for 22 years. There's a lot of people out there. That's all they've known. If they're like 25 years old or so, that's all they've known is one manager. This is all new to them, right? They went through the Emery thing, and now we're going into the Mikel Arteta thing. I love it. I love uncharted waters. There's something good about it.
There is. It's refreshing. It's really refreshing to not know what's going to happen. Last thing I have for you guys, and then we're going to wrap it up. I just want your not a prediction. I know I put on their predictions on the tweet, but something a little different. I want your how do I want to say this? What constitutes a good end to this season now under Mikel Arteta? Is it? Do we have to win the Europa League? Is it reaching the semifinal of the Europa League? Is it top 4? Is it top 6? What constitutes a successful first 6 months on the job for Mikel Arteta?
That's a good one, Matt. That's a good one.
I mean, I'm going to say come back in 6 weeks after January transfer window's over, and there's a few games there, but really, the ceiling is that high. Listen, let me put my optimistic hat on here. Go on a cup run. I don't think we're going to win anything this season. Go on a cup run, go deep in the cups, and get to 6th place in the league. A lot of fans might not even like that because that means Europa League again. Mm-hmm. But we have to, first of all, see improvement in the team and the existing players who've looked so bad over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
We just need to see green shoots. That's what I'll say.
Stan?
I think if we can at least qualify again for the Europa League, that would be quite good. So we've still got a little bit of some of that, filthy lucre coming in from Europe. It might not be the bigger pot from the Champions League. Every penny helps. So if we can finish us in the top 6, I'd be happy with that. But as I keep saying, you never know. We're still in a cup competition. Still in it.
We're only 7 points off top 4.
And we're still in cup competition. So, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
7 points.
Again.
It's not so far away.
Yeah. And again, uncharted territory. For me, I'll just say a successful first 6 months. When I look back on, I said, I don't know if you guys saw it at halftime of the West Ham match I put out. I tweeted out a bit of a I'll say a pep talk for the players. What I would have said if I were the coach. So and one of the things I said was, this is the first day of the rest of this season. So beginning tomorrow with the Everton match, and even though he's not going to be in charge for it, this is the first day of the rest of the season for this football club. And to me, it's not even really so much results based as much as it is performance. Are we seeing a change in attitude? Are we seeing a change in effort? Do we see Arteta with a system, a preferred system, and knowing the players that are going to fit in his system the best, and then coaching them up to do their jobs to the best of their ability? So for me, it's a little bit of both. Obviously, I want to see top 4. I would love to see us get that. I would love to see us win a trophy. Give me the FA Cup, I'll take it. Give me the Europa League, I'll take it. Look, a trophy's a trophy. So I do strangely think that the Europa League is very, very winnable. There are a lot of good teams that came down from the Champions League. I think it's winnable. I think I think the draw would have to fall.
That's a big shout.
It is, but that's why you play the games. And as we say here in America, because of American football, any given Sunday, they made a movie about it. Go ahead, Stan.
I'm just going to say, you've got to think, right, if you're an Arsenal player right now, whether you're a senior player or one of the younger guys, and you are happy and you want to be an Arsenal player, you've got to think whether Mikel Arteta is on the touchline tomorrow or not. You know he's starting in the stands, and you know that he is now starting work. And not only if you're in the starting 11 tomorrow or on the subs bench, training as well. A new leaf has to be turned. If you want to be an Arsenal player, whatever you've been doing before, if you've been sucked along with some of the older lot, and you've been there sort of when someone's been going good evening behind his back and you've been chuckling, all that stuff's now, you've got to stop all that now. Maybe lay off social media a little bit and show Mikel Arteta that you want to be an Arsenal player, because I think that if they don't do that, you'll be gone and you'll be playing in the Championship somewhere.
Yeah.
And for God's sake, do Freddie Lundberg right tomorrow. Sign off for the win.
He deserves it. Good point. He deserves it.
Hats off to Freddie.
He absolutely deserves it.
Yeah.
I hope he can stay within the youth team, go back to his role as a coach in the youth team, or be with the first team.
I think he's going to be with the first team. I think Arteta wants to keep him around in the first team.
That image of Freddie on the touchline going, that's forever going to be ingrained in me now for some time, because he looked horrified, man.
Yeah, that's a good defender in Callum Chambers trying to do too much to compensate for the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And that's what Arteta needs to cut out as well, But Tanner, great show tonight.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Like button, everybody.
What's that?
Smash that like button.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, please. Subscribe, like. Hey, real quick. Quick shout, and I have confirmation of it.
That's right. Special announcement.
Alan Smith Smudge has agreed to join me for an interview after the turn of the new year. I was kind of hoping to get him on at some point today. Unfortunately, he is otherwise committed basically through the turn of the new year. So he and I will be chatting through Twitter, private message on Twitter.
Hold on, he was going to come on today. I would have put a suit on and a tie or something.
Well, I wanted him to come on today, but unfortunately, when I did reach out to him and said about today, he told me that he couldn't make it today. Basically, he's pretty well tied up from now till the end of the year. Go ahead,
Tanner. You're on a trial.
Yeah, I'm on a 2-week trial with Smudge. But
Alan Smith is watching on playback. I'm sure he's going to watch this back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
it's a great channel. Smudger, great channel. Come on. We'd love to talk to you.
We'd love to talk to you, Alan. We've got so many questions. And you know what? Other than the obviously the football side of things, I'd really like to hear a little bit about the work that he does with the, like the voice stuff for FIFA. because I play FIFA and it never. Sometimes it sounds like Alan Smith is inside my house hiding. Because some of the things that happen, they say exactly what's gone on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and it doesn't sound sort of generic.
right.
It really fits, and I'd really love to find out how they do that. How many phrases, how many variables I've got to go through.
Yeah.
It must take ages.
It has to. Yeah, they sit there. They probably record it, and yeah, I'm going to talk to them. The one thing I will say that I do worry a little bit about with this is I'm not the biggest fish in this pond, so to speak.
Doesn't matter.
So I well for me it's
You just said that on air. You just said that on air. You were supposed to say.
What's that? Yeah.
You were supposed to say like we are the massive.
Yeah. Well, all you got to do is look at the subscribers right now. But we're hoping. I'm hoping that obviously.
Listen, little acorns grow, right?
Yep. I become a giant sequoia.
Keep working.
So, but stay tuned, everybody. Alan Smith will come on this show in January, I promise. And as soon as I get the date confirmed with him, I'll let everybody know on Twitter, and I'll make an announcement on here in the as I like to call them, the emergency pressers, the little quick hit videos that I do. So, gentlemen, thanks so much for coming on. At Stan the Man 68, at Stan _the_ man 68. Check him out on Twitter. Always good stuff. And also Ray with Arsenal Fan Circle. He is at Arsenal Circle on Twitter. Definitely give him a follow as well. Please hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button so that you know whenever we post new stuff. Gentlemen, I appreciate it as I just smacked my table and knocked my pop screen down.
I'm bloody well encouraged for the future of Arsenal.
I'm very encouraged. I'm very excited. It's uncharted territory, but who knows? Who knows? I put it this way: it can't get any worse, in my opinion, and I don't think it will, boys. I really don't think it will.
Up.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for us. Appreciate it, gentlemen. Good footy talk, everybody. We'll see you out there.
Come on, you Gooners. Up the Arsenal.